Hello, everybody. It's been a long day. Hi, everybody. We're going to try to get started here. So grab some refreshments and have a seat. So thank you, everybody, for coming tonight. It's nice to see a nice big crowd again. Kathy, thank you so much for doing this tonight again. So if this is the first program that you've been to, Kathy has put together some amazing programs and field trips for us. So I hope you'll come to more. If you've been to more of most of them, which many of you I've seen each month, Kathy's done a wonderful job. I think she deserves a round of applause. Just a few quick notes I want to go over. First of all, I'm sure everybody is wondering about Taste of the Keys, which was incredibly successful for us. As a club, we netted just over $27,000. Our next, we got a couple coming up. Tomorrow night, we've got our Valentine's Day party at the Bayfront Park, and that's going to be from 5:30, 5 to 8. 5 to 8 tomorrow night. It is a bring a dish, appetizer, or dessert to pass, and the club is providing everything else. Excuse me, my voice hasn't been pulled up for very long. Next, we've got a field trip coming up on the 23rd.
I guess the 22nd.
You think I'd have this all memorized by
I
now?
think I would too.
21st.
The 21st. So that is going to Historic Cortez. And do we still have openings
I
available?
think we've got 4.
We've got 4 openings for that also. So, and of course, our monthly Tuesday meetings. And March, we've got dinner and a movie coming up on the 22nd with the rain date of the 23rd. And I believe tickets will be going on sale for that shortly on the website. So, okay, so you guys have listened to me long enough. So I would like to introduce Dr. Crosby. I'm sure everybody knows his name from Mote. We are so very blessed to have him with us tonight. Just to give you a little bit of the background. He has been with us here in Sarasota area since 2010. I guess it is about right. He obtained his MS in biology with honors from Old Dominion University and a PhD in, I'm not even gonna try this, marine estuarian environmental sciences at the University of Maryland. He is currently on the board and has served as president for several national and international science societies. He served for 3 years as Mote Senior Vice President for Research. Mote's Board of Trustees appointed Dr. Crosby as President and CEO of Mote Marine Laboratory. And he's going to walk us through the Mote C program. And I am just going to tell you, going through it, actually 2 months ago. If you have a chance to go see this construction site, you have to go. It is amazing. So I am going to turn this over to Dr. Crosby, and thank you.
If I don't use this, can you still hear me?
Yes.
Or it's just, I can only a limited amount.
We do have some people on Zoom, Dr. Crosby.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Oh,
yeah.
where am I supposed to be?
Yeah, just stay a little closer. You're good there. Yeah.
And they can hear me as well?
I will find out. They should be able to.
I can hear him.
Thank you.
Very good. All right. Thank you very much. So for the thousands of people in the club on Zoom, welcome. Wish you were here. I tell you, the spread in the back, champagne, caviar, y'all really got to make the next meeting, whether I'm talking or not. But thank you all very, very much for all the support that this club has provided long before I ever got to Sarasota. Really do appreciate that. You're a big part of the Mote family. And I mentioned all you gotta do is call, and I'm gonna come run. Because that's a strong history of support. That's very important to us. So it's part of us. I'm going to tell you a little bit about Mote C, but I really feel it's important to put it in the context of where Mote came from and where we are going even beyond Mote C. So I'm just going to talk about a couple of things. Now, you all here, you're local. I don't have to give you the long history of Mote because you're very familiar. You could probably give me a few insights as well. But this is the campus when most local folks, when most people that know of Mote think of Mote, this is what they think of, because this is more of the public face of Mote, because this is where the aquarium is. What many people do not know is that that is one of 8, almost 9 campuses. So 9 campuses coming, and we'll talk about that 9th one here in a moment. But we have 8 campuses now, and they extend literally from the tip, the northernmost tip, in fact, out over the northernmost tip of Anna Maria Island at the historic Anna Maria Pier, all the way down to where I grew up when I was little. I was born in Florida, down in Key West. So we've got actually 5 campuses in Key West. And so we're really all around the state of Florida, but in fact, we're all around the world. We are conducting research literally all around the world. And this is just a little snippet of some of the areas that we conduct work and some of the scientists that are conducting that work around the world. And the reason we have grown over nearly 70 years, you all know the story of Jeannie and how it all started nearly 70 years ago in that one little lab and what we've grown to today. We have over 300 staff. I've got 45 or so PhD level scientists. We have 27 very diverse research programs, everything from biomedical, immunology, molecular microbiology, robotic sensor development, ocean technology, machine learning, and everything in between. The reason we've grown is because of this and a few other very grand challenges that our oceans and coastal environments are facing. And the importance of the science that Mote does to develop the solutions for how to mitigate against those negative impacts and restore, conserve, and sustainably utilize our marine resources. Most of you are familiar with the threat to coral reefs all around the world. You're probably familiar, especially with ocean warming, the increasing temperatures which cause bleaching. And this is a quote from a colleague of mine from Australia. When the Great Barrier Reef got hit back, I think it was 2016, 2017, with the first really major bleaching they had. And he saw these big coral heads that are hundreds of years old and they're dying. And he basically hung his head, as you might expect, and say, what can we do? You can't bring back the 100-year-old coral. And that's when I really started pushing hard with our scientists to say, actually, the research we're doing, we can do something about this. We can develop new technologies. We can challenge existing paradigms of science. And so, in fact, our scientists closed the loop on many, many, many different species of both branching and the more massive, slow-growing older corals. We closed the life cycle loop on those so that we could breed them both in the wild and in the laboratory. And very importantly, we focused on identifying the resilient genotypes of those. But if you just put a coral out into the wild and plant it out there, what killed it in the first place is going to kill it again, unless you identify the resilient genotypes. And that's what our approach does, so that we have a phenomenal rate of success, at least in the first couple of years, out there with the branching corals and the very slow, massive growing corals. And the way we do it is we call it microfragmentation, where we cut coral, a coral that we know is resilient to, say, increasing temperature or increasing pH, ocean acidification, or to coral disease. And we use that as our stock, but we use many different genotypes that all exhibit that. So it's not just one genotype going on. And when we microfragment that coral, it accelerates the growth rate. So if you can imagine a very slow growing coral that grows, it has to grow about this size. So the size of this right here, it has to grow this size to become sexually mature and produce gametes so that it can reproduce and replenish the population, which is the end goal, right? We don't want to be in the coral restoration business forever. But the problem is to grow this coral this size, which is literally, that's about the size of it. Easily 30, more like 70 years. And what this progression here shows you is a sequence of 4 years in which these microfragments, they grow 40 to 50 times as fast as a normal coral. They have grown so much that they start fusing together. And when they fuse together, they all recognize genetically it's identical twins. They fuse together and they form a coral head that would take 30 to 70 years, and they can do it in 4 to 5 years. And that's the fusion technology that we have. And in fact, we have done this and shown, first time ever, this is a peer-reviewed publication that came out where we did this with a very slow growing coral in 5 years, and it spawned by itself out in the field. First time ever documented. And during that 5-year period, after we planted all those little plugs out there, it survived 2 coral bleaching events, Irma, GAT4 going right over the top of it, and it survived the stony coral tissue loss disease that killed 90% of the coral around it. So it survived, it grew large enough to spawn in just 5 years, not 70 years, and it was able to start reproducing itself. And so that's what I call the coral Lazarus effect. And some of you may remember who Lazarus was. A lot of people, when I talk, especially younger crowds, shall we say, they don't even know who the hell Lazarus is. But anyhow, because we can bring these coral back. You have this large dead coral head the size of this table that may be 500 years old, and we can put those plugs of the fast-growing microfrags on there that we know are genetically resilient to what kills it in the first place. And in 5 years, you've got yourself a 500-year-old coral. That's changing a whole paradigm of science. That's why we're growing. We're growing not just for the sake of growing, but to actually have real-world impact. But it takes a lot of hands. Mote can't, we got 300 staff, but we can't do this by ourselves. Partnership is so important. But most of you that have heard me talk, I can't do any talk about Mote and not say passion, partnership, and philanthropy. Those are the 3 foundations of Mote. And we've got to have these partners. So we partner with the combat wounded vets every year. They're coming back in April and then in June again, down in the Keys to help us restore those coral. Young scuba nauts international, 12 to 18-year-old kids that are scuba nauts that come out. So we partner, and we have volunteer scientists come out, citizen scientists to come out and help us as well. But another part of coral restoration is the aquaculture component. This guy right here is so vitally important to restoring coral reefs because it's not just about the coral. When I say this guy, it's this guy here. Although this guy is the guy that can grow these guys. This is Dr. Spadero. Hired him as a young postdoc. He's got a blue thumb. Okay, you all should identify with this. Okay, he can grow coral. He can grow, well, he does grow coral, but he can grow. This is a Caribbean king crab. It's endemic to the Caribbean. And the reason this is so important is macroalgae, the plant, is now outcompeting coral because the living coral cover in the Florida Keys. When I was a little boy living down there, the living coral cover was 60%, 60. It's now about 2% to 5%. So the coral is so dispersed, the gametes can never even hook up. So they can't restore themselves anymore. And the problem is the macroalgae have filled in all of those blank spaces and the coral can't settle either. So we need a grazer out there. All the grazers died off. The sea urchins died off. So this is what we call trophic cascade. When you take one animal out of an ecosystem and see all of the negative impacts, take wolves out of the ecosystem, the deer go crazy, the deer start eating all the grass. Then there's erosion because there's no ground cover. Then you've got massive floods, mudslide, all of these trophic cascades. So this is a herbivore. And so it goes out, picks and eats all the macroalgae. So we are now currently, and this is just a data slide showing an 85% reduction when you put these crabs out there. You want a nice clean service for the coral to settle on. Out at MAP, how many of you been out to Mote Aquaculture Research Park? Okay. You gotta go out there again. And the reason is, it's so much more. We had Farm to Fillet event this last Sunday and had tours out there. There's so much more going on out there besides just the aquaculture. But this is a crab hatchery that we built out there, in which we will be producing well over 200,000 crabs a year, Caribbean king crab that we will then not feed down in the Keys. And they're very, very tasty. You know, Alaskan king crab, it sort of looks like that, it sort of tastes like that. Red tide is another reason that our science needs to grow. Red tide is one of hundreds of different kinds of harmful algal blooms that occur around the world. And with red tide, it's particularly insidious, as you all know, living where you live. When it occurs, it produces this toxin. And that toxin is what really causes all the damage. The reason red tide is quite a bit different than many other harmful algal blooms is this is a naturally occurring harmful algal bloom. Most other harmful algal blooms are very directly related to human activity. This one, unfortunately, is not. So cleaning up the waterway and the non-point source pollution is very, very important, but it isn't going to do away with red tide. It'll take care of other harmful algal. And so we needed to use innovative science to develop tools that we can fight and mitigate the red tide, kill the Corellia brevis, the dinoflagellate, and denature the toxin. The state of Florida believed in us, gave us a 6-year initiative. We're 5 years into it, and this is what our basic mantra is. Do no more harm with what you're treating the red tide with than the red tide is already doing. We know how to kill red tide. You crop duster, load it up with a bunch of copper sulfate, spray it over a red tide, and it'll kill the red tide, just like that. And it'll kill everything else there. So you don't want to do that. So do no greater harm. We've looked at over 300 different compounds, 300 different approaches, and we've narrowed it down to about a dozen and a half that we know from our testing facility that is also out at Mote Aquaculture Research Park. We know we have a dozen and a half technologies and compounds that will kill the Corellia, denature the toxin, and do no greater harm to the non-target species, the fish, the bivalves, the other invertebrates. And in fact, Florida is leading the way in that, and so the feds caught up, and now the federal government, NOAA, has given us another 5-year plan to use this testing facility right here in Sarasota to develop treatments for harmful algal, all the other harmful algal blooms in the country, in both freshwater and in marine. That's why we're growing our science. So when I say we're growing and we're global, it's to address these kinds of issues for which we need science. Seagrass, another one that you all are familiar with. Fortunately, here, knocking on wood, in Sarasota Bay, we're doing very, very well with seagrass. This is probably near the highest concentration density of seagrasses that we have had here since the 60s, when they were really declining. There's a couple little blips here that we got to keep an eye on. But for the rest of the state, there's a lot of problems with seagrass. And we could have those problems here if we don't make sure that we're staying on top of what comes off of the land into the water. Indian River Lagoon, all the seagrass that died there, and I'm sure you saw those really heartbreaking photos of all the starving manatees. That is a direct repercussion of human activity on land, nutrients going into the water and creating a different kind of algal bloom than the perennial that caused the seagrasses to die off, that caused the manatees to die off. And so it's very, very important as we look to seagrasses that we have a statewide policy strategy for restoring all of those seagrasses. So Mote is taking the lead now, the state of Florida, based on the success of coral and red tide. They allowed Mote to be the lead for a 5-year initiative to develop resilient seagrass genotypes, the same way we did with coral, so that we can help the commercial operators that restore seagrass to use the good resilient genotypes there. It's a 5-year program. I won't go through all this, but the bottom line is we're continuing to grow, not because we want to grow necessarily, but because the ocean is really, to us, it's calling out. And it is saying, we're in trouble. We're in big trouble. The totality of our oceans and our coastal environment is being threatened. And we need to use good, sound science to develop the solutions. A lot of things are due to climate change. So what do? Do we say, you know what? There's nothing we can do about climate change. If the politicians don't get together, if the world doesn't do this and that, it's never going to happen. And by the time it does happen, we've watched coral reefs go into extinction, we've watched seagrasses go into extinction, or we can use science to help build a more resilient ecosystem while the politicians figure out what they're going to do about climate change. So we're going to use science to make sure we don't lose these precious ecosystems. And in order to do this, Mote has got to continue to grow. So I know I'm going to talk about Mote C in a second, but I also want to let you know Mote C is the first step. As soon as we are done with Mote C, we are going to turn our attention to our campus on City Island. We have grown our technology-based science out at MAP. We are going to evolve the City Island campus into an international marine science, technology, and innovation park. We're going to take all of that seawater system that we have for the aquarium. We're going to transfer that into science infrastructure. We're not going to rip it away. That big shark tank that we have now, that's going to become a giant respiration chamber. Isn't that exciting? It is to me. Because it'll be a chamber to conduct whole large pelagic community, large fish, those sharks and other fish you see in that tank, we can seal that tank off and measure all of the respiration of the community so that scientists can model fishery dynamics and community dynamics in the open ocean, which can't be done now. It's all guesswork. And this will help promote better fishery management technology. So we're going to add 60,000 square feet of more research infrastructure. A whole wing is going to be devoted to derived products from the sea. We have a biomedical, immunology, and molecular microbiology program. They will go in there with new laboratories, but we're going to add a medicinal chemistry laboratory as well. So we can build on the research we're already doing to have derived products from the sea. It's going to be incredible for the campus. You all will love it. And it'll still be, I'll tell you all this, but you got to promise not to tell anybody else. We're going to have a few little aquarium things there still for our local community to be able to just want to drive down to it and see a few animals. You're going to be able to see that as well, but you can't tell anybody we're doing. Now, this is the guy that I really admire, Mr. Mote, for a number of reasons. But we're growing, as I said, for a reason, and that's to use to expand our science so that we can help restore those oceans and coastal environment. This quote of his is my favorite. The generations we've taken from the sea, and now it's time to give back. You all are a beautiful example of giving back. You have given and supported so many great causes. Mote, yes, you're all too much, but you're doing wonderfully in supporting so many great causes, and your impact is so great. That's what Mr. Mote is talking about. is giving back, and you all really lead by example, and I thank you again for that. But one of the things Mr. Mote also did in 1980, remember 1955 we started? 1980, we finally had an aquarium because he wanted people to understand the importance of the science that we were doing, but also understand the connections that everybody had, even if you're not a fisherman, even if you live in Iowa, the connection you have to the ocean. So he developed the aquarium as sort of an informal science education center. And it's been great ever since then. And we've grown. But it's time to grow it and have even greater impact to enhance the overall level of ocean literacy amongst the public. This, we spent years and years and years looking for the right place to really transfer and give a rebirth for our aquarium, our informal science education center. And when we selected this site, it was the perfect site. But the name of both the campaign, Oceans for All, and the name of the facility, Mote Science Education Aquarium, SEA, Mote C. It's all about science education. And I think most of you may be familiar with where it's going on by now, if you've been out by University Town Center, and I know some of you actually live there as well. The land that it's on actually didn't exist. We had to drain the lake, put the dirt in there, refill the lake. But this is a quick history. When I said we were at it a long time, long before 2018, when we openly started the campaign publicly, we were searching for the right site. In 2018, we announced we were going to do this. We laid out the vision that we had as the first step in this broader vision that we have. And every year after that, step by step, we made more progress, got county support. And I kept getting asked in 2018, about 2023, last year, are you going to build it? Are you going to build it? Are you going to build it? For 2 years, we were building it, so nobody saw it because it was all in the ground or underground. But finally, last year, when it started coming up out of the ground, I stopped getting asked that question. This is what I think a lot of you are wondering about and going to ask about when it's going to open. Winter of 2024, we are going to open. Okay. You all are all about nature. When does the winter start? When does the winter end? It's the first day of spring. So the winter of 24 begins in 24. It ends in 2025. Just so you know, right? Winter of 2024. When it's going to open. All right. Little facts about it. Then I'm going to show you some pictures and some floor plans. 12 acres now. Nathan Benderson Park is about 300 acres, I think. 12 acres, the county sold to Mote. We had tough negotiation there. I think we got a fair price, $100. And it's going to be 3 stories high, but every story is a new big story. 1 million gallons of seawater, over 100,000 square feet. Very importantly, though, and I'm going to show you some pictures in just a second. 3 STEM teaching laboratories, and I know that you all as an organization and each of you individually, education is important. You have supported Mote for so many years with our education programs, our outreach programs. There are 3 STEM teaching laboratories on the ground floor of this facility for K-12 students, not for field trips. There'll be a lot of field trips to come through there, but these are actually structured classes. We'll talk about that a little bit more. Very important, and also 4 STEM workforce training laboratories. So sort of a fishbowl is an exhibit with high school students and undergraduate students and graduate students that are actively engaged in research there. And we're going to more than double our visitors as well. And the economic impact is going to be phenomenal every year, $28 million, just from the aquarium. That's not the rest. And by the way, we did a study in 2015, I think it was, on what's the broader economic impact of the whole Mote enterprise. It was about 89 point something million dollars, so about $90 million. You know, it's very interesting to me. Only $11 million of that 90 million was economic impact from the aquarium. It's the research enterprise that has the greatest economic impact here, the research. So there's going to be a whole lot of great exhibits there. This is, some people call it the Gulf of Mexico tank. For me, it's the Alaska Branch Conservation Tank. And it's specifically designed so that it can have a small tooth sawfish. Because that's an indigenous species here in Southwest Florida, and it's also endangered. We're going into extinction. So we're going to talk about a breeding program that we're going to be implementing through this exhibit that is going to help restore that population as well. Every single exhibit in there is going to be about science. It's going to be fun to see and exciting, but every one of them is going to be about science. This is all about an exhibit all about red tide and the science behind red tide, the ecology behind it. But this is very important. It's all about advancing ocean literacy. So every exhibit is going to help people have a smile on their face, but also have a little more knowledge in their head and help people to ask more questions as well. And to always be inquisitive and ask questions. I tell you, so many of the problems in the world today, I'm convinced, can be solved through education. And the ocean and the coastal environment is no different. If we enhance that overall level of ocean literacy, we're going to solve a lot of problems. This is the first floor. I'm not going to go through a lot of these, but this is the first floor design here, where you'll come in through the front door, through the ticketing. But the first thing you're going to see are these 3 STEM teaching laboratories. We want that to be up front so people walk in and see that right away. See all those children learning, engaging, hands-on, experiential learning opportunities that they would never otherwise have. I bet you could use less fingers than you have on one hand to count the number of schools in both Sarasota and Manatee County that have advanced technology infrastructure for science and technology that their students can engage in. Most schools will never be able to afford this, never be. Here's a blow up of it, and very importantly, each one of these labs has a different focus, all related back to Mote research. One is marine ecology, so coral restoration, fisheries, aquaculture. Another one will focus on biomedical, immunology, microbiology, and the third will focus on ocean technology and robotics. The children will be in there learning how to build new sensors, learning how to do programming, learning about artificial intelligence, machine learning, how they can use that, how they can understand it better. So each one of these is going to be focused in a different area. And we are working and have been working with both Sarasota County and Manatee County, but it's open to all of the regional schools. But we've been working with Sarasota and Manatee County to develop lesson plans at every grade level with their STEM instructors, so that when those classes, so a teacher will bring his or her class, 2nd grade, 6th grade, 11th grade, into one of these labs, they reserve it, they come in, all the lesson plans are there that they know are going to address the required experiential learning opportunities in STEM at every grade level. One of our scientists will be in there, one of our educators will be. And we're providing this absolutely free of charge to every school that wants to use it. Now, we're going to give a little bit of priority for Sarasota and Manatee County, because Sarasota and Manatee County put tourist development funds into this. So we want to make sure that those school systems have first crack, but then it's open up to every other school in the region. And we will be having at least 70,000 students in structured classes, in addition to all the field trips, structured classes that we go through this every single year. And remember, our education programs, I like to say, are K through grade. So when those teaching labs are not used by the K-12 schools, they're going to be used for other public classes that will be happening there. Education never stops. I learn something new every day. I'm gonna show you some pictures now. This is that big Gulf of Mexico, Alaska Brine Conservation Tank. It actually goes much further over this, but this is sort of the top view. I'm showing this to you because I'm gonna show you a drone photo of this. So I'm trying to help put it in context. So this was back early summer. This figure 8 is that tank that we were just looking at. And this is the deeper water. This is only about 15 feet deep or so. Here's that curved window that you can walk under there. This is the inside of it. Before the acrylic went in here, and there's acrylic on both sides. The multi-purpose room is down here, and also has a different window. So if you're in there for a lecture, or you're in there for, you all are going to have a lunch there. You're going to have a bunch of sharks swimming by when you're having lunch there in the multi-purpose. Small, soft sharks, right? Goes through there. But they needed a helping hand, so I volunteered. I gave all those guys a great laugh that day. But that piece of acrylic is about 11 to 12 tons. The other one is behind here. This is standing up and facing this is up on the second floor, the Pacific Gallery. Since we do research all around the world, we're going to be talking about research we do in the Pacific. It's incredible exhibits in there. This is a sort of the second level floor plan here. So these are the Pacific waters I just showed you. This is the top of that Alaska Brine Conservation Tank, and it's full. And by the way, you heard me say early on that we work with combat wounded vets. Everything in here is designed for handicap diver accessibility. So we can bring in our combat wounded vets and we can train them in here as well as other divers. But everything in here is handicap accessible. So we can make sure that we continue to participate in those. Of course, you gotta have penguins, right? Because they smell so good. There's about 50% of this exhibit you'll never see because it's behind the house where all the air cleaning is. Scrub. But those are Humboldts. And we'll be talking about research related to the Humboldt penguins as well. Up on the top floor, level 3, at the south end, basically the stern of the ship, there's a large outdoor lanai that looks straight down the rowing lake. And from here, you can also see downtown Sarasota as well. Then over here, this the outship people will be the Florida exhibit, which is open to stuff. There'll be shade and cloths and things like that. And this is the Florida Waters Gallery, so there'll be a huge manatee tank that we're talking right now. We'll probably be having, probably be using this for final stage rehabilitation before release of manatees. Also, river otters, a lot of other Florida organisms will be up there. And this was, I think, late summer when we had put on the roof. So here's that outdoor lanai here. Here's the multi-purpose room that I told you about. And the front, you come in here. This is the University Town Center Mall there. And all this land we created. And this is actually very dated now too. This was maybe a month ago, but all these ribs have sort of gone up all the way around, putting the cross ribs in, and the walls are now filling in. In April, we should be under air conditioning. In the summer, we should be adding seawater. And in October, we should be adding the animals so that we can be open in winter of 2024. But this is really what it's all about. And this is something I know resonates with all of you just from the long history of support just for Mote, but I know You have so much support for other organizations, Boys and Girls Club, or other organizations. But every single child in this entire region should have the same experiential learning opportunities that the children in some of the schools are able to have, every single child. That's why we're providing that all free of charge. But one of the other things that we have learned, because we have a pretty significant education program that you all have been supporting for many, many years. Thank you. We go out in the community, and your funding has helped us go out in the community, because that bridge coming over from the mainland over to Berkey and Rideau, then into City Island, it can really, just because of traffic, it can inhibit people from coming, but it's also a psychological inhibitor as well. So we go out in the community to reach a much broader cross section of the entire community that we have here in this region. And what we've learned, it's an unfortunate statistic, but it's reality. In Sarasota County and Manatee County, there are 24,000 Title I students. And as Title I students, of course, economically challenged families. But many of these families also are not from what many might think of as a traditional family, with a mother and a father and the children together in the home. Kids come home from school and sit around the dinner table and say, well, what'd you do in school today? And talk about the education, and continue that education process at home. Many of these families are an older sibling is taking care of younger siblings, a grandparent, an uncle, an aunt, and it's tough sometimes to continue that education process. And so what we've decided is all these students, these 24,000 students, they're going to come to Mote on a field trip. They're going to come to Mote with their science or their engineering or their technology class. So those children are individually going to gain that experience. But when they go home, most Title I students and their families can't afford the price of a ticket. And remember, it is an informal science education center. We want the whole family to come. So we're going to give every one of those 24,000 Title I students every year a day pass. And that day pass is for that student to come back whenever they want to go through and experience the entire aquarium, all of that informal science education. But very importantly, they can also bring their entire family with them. Absolutely. Because you all have supported us. This community has created Mote Marine Laboratory. We would not be Mote if it wasn't for this community. One of the most, I mean, this is a remarkable community. So caring, so giving to so many causes. And Mote has an obligation, like Mr. Mote said, to give back to the community that supports us. And so that is how we are going to give back to this community, is through our Oceans for All campaign. And I hope we can have you all continue to be part of this next evolution in how Mote is having a positive impact in enhancing the overall level of ocean literacy. So thank you all very much. That's all I've got to yap about. I didn't talk too long.
Very much. I know that at our board meeting, we had some questions for Dr. Crosby too, right?
And some, I know some of you have been out, I know that already, but I think at least some members are going to be coming out later this month for a tour as well.
Yes.
You are going to see things that I haven't seen. I haven't even been up on the third floor yet. I haven't had time to go. So I'm sure they're going to take it all the way up to the third floor as well, which is pretty special. You'll see it before I do.
Yeah, there was one floor when I was there.
Yeah.
So, question?
Can I ask about the sea turtles? Will they still be here or will they be down at the other night?
There's one month,
Okay.
9 camps. So that's a good question. And the answer is yes.
So they'll be everywhere.
But you can't tell them. Now, as soon as we move the aquarium off of City Island, the resort is Mote Science Education Park, Yes, there'll be a large portion of our turtle population that are unreleasable will be there. But there are some sea turtles that we're going to be keeping here for a number of reasons, not the least of which is they're acclimated to the tanks, and it would really be, we think, more harmful to them to try to get them to adapt to a new tank because of some of the conditions that they have, not being able to see, things like that. But we're also going to tear down the existing hospital, and as part of the expansion effort, not adding footprint, we have 10.5 acres there on City Island, but repurposing buildings like we'll tear down the existing hospital, which is just about falling down right now, and build a brand new hospital there. And there will be sea turtles there, a sea turtle hospital there as well. So I'd say there'll be a few things there for people locally, on the islands here.
We sponsor the children of whose parents are employed on Longboat Key
Mhm.
to Mote Aquarium summer camp.
Mhm.
What we do
Yep,
scholarships
yep.
for them. Do you have any idea yet whether they will be staying on the City Island facility or going up to the new facility?
The answer to that one is yes as well. We will be offering new opportunities at Mote C, but we will be continuing many of the camp activities and education activities here. In fact, we'll be expanding the education. We've really expanded the education program. I wanted to have a STEM education research program at Mote, and we purposely have grown to that. We now have some PhDs in that field, looking at really trying to quantify methodologies of STEM education at every grade level. What is the more impactful way to present at the second grade level, at the third grade, at the sixth grade, and do that in a controlled environment. I've got a lot of younger staff now that are recruiting in new young scientists. They're doing exactly what I want them to do. They're coming here single. They find somebody, they fall in love, they have kids, they sink their roots here, and I need to do a little bit of early career support or early childhood support for them, for those families. So we're going to have, we're going to roll out, we'll call it I think we'll call it, it's going to be a early childhood STEM education center, but the kids will be in there for the day. And we'll subsidize it for the Mote employees, and we'll make other people pay full freight to help that, but we'll split the kids into 2 different sections. And so we'll use slightly different early childhood teaching and learning and be able to quantify that statistically as the methodology. So for me, everything's a grand experiment. So, but we're going to continue to have the camps. In fact, my wife and I have a 6-year-old grandson, and here this summer, and he's going to Mote camps, which means my wife told me, well, you're taking time off. So I get to take time off. Those summer camps are wonderful.
Yeah, they love it.
Really, the kids have a great time, and the ones that the parent, one or more parent or caregiver in, they always learn from it as well. It's just great. Have you been out to see the new floating dock we put there on the Keating Education Center? It used to be when you came out, when you go into down Ken Thompson Parkway, the building on the left there, that's our education center. When the kids were coming out to get in the water, they used to have to walk down the road there for about 100 feet, very dangerous, really, and then go down through the mangrove into the very shallow water there. We finally were able to get philanthropic funding to build a floating dock on the backside of the building, so they don't have to go out in the street anymore. Right out under the building onto the floating dock, and right step right in, nice and shallow. So yes, is the answer. Anything else?
Well, I'm just curious, with the new C facility, Is that all hurricane proof?
It should withstand a Cat 5, so pretty good. It's not certified the way our building in the Florida Keys is, but it should withstand a 5. And I won't say, I'm not going to jinx about it. You're not going to get a 5. I'm not going to go there, but yeah, it should. And Keating is the same way. And all the new buildings, as we're renovating, tearing down and building on City Island, everything is going to be impact resistant for Cat 5, redundant power supplies. And we will be engaging, I do want to say, many of you are local here on the islands. We're going to be engaging with the entire community down here as we're working through the specifics of what we're thinking about there, so that the community is feeling good about what we're going to do there. We're not building high rises or anything like that, but we want the community to feel good about it. And despite what you may hear from some folks that have been at the city commission recently about ideas for things out at City Island, Mote is not leaving City Island. We are going to grow on City Island. Aquarium will go on, although as I said, there'll be a few, but we're going to grow the science and the technology there rather significantly. Pretty phenomenal space there.
Doctor, I think because of your leadership in the community, I hope that you can talk some sense into people who think that things like Ferris wheels in that very natural, important bird environment is not harmed.
We purposely tried to keep Mote out of taking positions on political related or development kinds of things unless we're asked a very specific question. So if you ask me a question that I can say, well, Mote science says this, I'll be happy to answer that. But sometimes common sense is also very valuable. Just
I wasn't looking for an answer.
Or request?
now, I do take my Mote shirt off and hat off, and I tell all of our staff, when you have your Mote gear on, cannot be out there advocating politically or, because then the community believes that's a Mote position. But I want everyone, to be very engaged in decisions at the local community level. It is so important that everyone be educated, understand, ask questions, and be engaged. So important. And I'm hoping all of our folks are going to be very engaged, but all of you are obviously very engaged, or you wouldn't be part of this big club. So. Okay?
Any more questions?